Hello and welcome to another Offseason Outlook episode of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
It took him a bit, but that's my dad. Dad, we are halfway through and apparently a little loopy already.
It's the drinks.
Of our Offseason Outlook series. We are switching to the NL. If this is your first video in the series you're watching, we do the losses and the needs of each team in the division. And again, kind of those needs could be losing more people, it could be trading people. We don't dive in yet to who we think those replacements or those holes, those gaps will be. That comes at the end when we do our top 50 free agent predictions, our most fun episode, our most look forward to episode of the year. So Dad, we're gonna obviously I've been trying to wear a team per video to keep honestly track of the videos later. But we're gonna do the NL East and we're gonna start with the Mets, who will have had some of the most losses of any team, so they'll be in theory looking for the most players. Honestly, the Braves and the Mets have lost the most players going into free agency, retirement, whatever have you. The Mets last offseason signed a lot of one-year contracts, but the biggest one that wasn't a one-year is Pete Alonso. Will the polar bear depart New York? Will definitely be a storyline to watch all season. But the one-year contracts, the Sean Manaeas, the Jose Quintanas, Luis Severino, JD Martinez, Harrison Bader, Brooks Raley, Adam Ottavino, Ryan Stanek, Drew Smith, Jesse Winker, Jose Iglesias, oh my God, and Phil Maton are all, well, Jose, that's his song. So those are all the losses. But, Dad, with all that being said, the Mets have hundreds of millions, arguably, to spend. Because of all those contracts coming off the book, they're going to have to replace that, so they're going to probably spend close to $200 million this offseason. I think they'll be the most active team this offseason. Dad, what do they need?
Everything you just mentioned of all losses. First base is glaring.
Yes.
Outfield. I think they want a little more offense in their outfield. DH, starting pitching and relief pitching. Lots of pitching to be replaced. And again, the Mets have the payroll. I think no price tag is too small for Steve Cohen and the group over there. I just think that they are going to go hog wild and they're going to put all their chips in the middle and see what happens. But I think you're correct. They'll spend the most of any team in baseball this year.
When we look at other teams, we look at individual gaps. They need a starting pitcher. They need an outfielder. This team, it is multiple starters, like multiple good starters, because right now it's Kodai Senga, Peterson, and Paul Blackburn. I mean, it's a huge drop-off. Probably the most needed rotation help in all of baseball. I would say an outfielder. The reason I, again, don't know who or what position just yet. They acquired Jose Siri already. I view him more as a fourth outfielder. He's defensively okay, good personality, good for New York, honestly. With Nimmo guaranteed some spot, Marte could be a corner or a DH. They have a lot of depth around the infield. So, again, I think first base could be a need, but I also think third base could be a need. Brett Beatty never clicked, but Matt Vientos sure did, and either he'll be a third baseman or first baseman for them for the long haul. Lindor was runner-up in the MVP. In my opinion, lock at shortstop.
Leader of the team.
But they have Ronnie Mauricio, that rookie that got injured last year. Where does he fit in this future? Jeff McNeil could be a second baseman. He has ability to play left field as well because Luis Angel Cuna is also ready for the majors. So they do have some. Do we go with the youth movement? Do we go with some veterans? Do we trade somebody? I mean, again, Nimmo could play center still. Not great. McNeil could move to left, and suddenly they don't need an outfielder. I don't think that's what they do. I think, obviously, with all those holes, they'll definitely sign some offensive help. But I just think that between Vientos is a lock. He's being kept no matter what. So is Lindor. But the four of Beatty, Mauricio, McNeil, and Acuna may not all make the roster come April 1st, 2025.
I think they're going to, again, I think a lot of their acquisitions will come free agent. With all those losses, there's not a whole lot of pieces they want to trade. So I think they're going to get an influx of new talent. And I think they're going for the title of the champion of the NL East next year. They want to bypass the Phillies. So I think it's going to be a strong, strong team.
When 2 years ago the Mets were signing Scherzer and Verlander and trying to go for, a World Series title. Scherzer left the team because he was kind of told 2024 wasn't going to be their year, and they ended up being the NLCS. So they got a taste of, playoff success, if you will.
Yeah. Started poorly, by the way.
Yes. And then Grimace and, oh my God, Jose Iglesias, and then, a whole bunch of things.
Lady Luck.
There's going to be a lot of parts in, parts out with this team, and I'm curious. I think there's only a couple places in my mind that are untouchable. Lindor, Diaz, and probably Kodai Senga. Maybe the catcher Francisco Alvarez. But otherwise, they should listen to offers on some trades or be willing to even bench some players or platoon some players. Obviously, they don't have to trade anybody. They can keep all these people under control, under contract. They just might want to move one or two of these people, especially I don't know if Brett Beatty has any value, but maybe he gets into a trade talks. Almost like a Josh Bart in the last year of the Giants. Is this guy going to be anything? Let's just trade him. Maybe another team will help him. He's not a part of our future.
Matt Mervis of the Cubs.
Sure. Whatever your team answer is, yes, trade him and see what clicks somewhere else. Dad, let's move on to the Braves. Like I said earlier, the Braves have pretty much just as many pieces leaving the team as they did, as the Mets. They technically lost two people in the Jorge Soler trade, Jorge Soler and then non-tendering Griffin Canning, who was never put on a Braves uniform. Hugh Oscar and Noah, Ramon Laureano, Charlie Morton, who is still playing. I think he might retire. Max Fried, Travis d'Arnaud, already signed somewhere else. AJ Minter, Whit Merrifield, Gio Urshela, Adam Duvall, Jesse Chavez, John Brebbia, and Luke Jackson. A sincere amount of relievers, or just pitchers overall, and a couple position players. On paper, the Braves don't have that many holes, although they should strengthen this team. Again, it's a team that we've seen for the past 3 or 4 years that has control. They're locked up through 2028, 2029. From all experiences, if you, just like the Dansby Swanson, if they didn't lock you up, they don't want you. The Freddie Freemans, the Dansby Swansons, and I think Max Fried will fall into that realm as well. I think he's gone. They were very lucky to get Chris Sale really for Grissom, and Grissom became nothing in the Red Sox, so what a trade for them. Hopefully they get Spencer Strider back for some of the year. Hopefully Acuna's healthy.
Those are the two keys right there.
Absolutely, those are the two keys. And then maybe if Bryce Elder, again, between Elder, Schwellenbach, and Schmidt, Shawver, they should have some keys to success in there. They could still add a starter for sure. They could add to the bullpen. This is a good team right now. It could be great if healthy, and obviously superior if they improve at a key holes. I would say shortstop could be one of the holes if they don't trust Arcia heading into the year.
I think the key to this team is health and restock the bullpen. I think they're going to miss AJ Minter if they didn't re-sign him. He was one of the real strong pieces of that bullpen. And, if you really think about the Phillies' success last year, the bullpen was paramount on their success. So the Braves really need to reconstruct their pitching. And health is going to be huge because a healthy team with Atlanta will go a long way. Acuna's injury was devastating. That really sucked a lot of offense right out of them.
What's tough about the Braves compared to the Mets is they have the same amount of departures, but the Mets have so much more money to spend to fill those holes. So the Braves will have some, how much still has to be a fraction compared to the Mets.
Yeah.
They may only be able to add, if they go for a shortstop, then they will have to maybe make do with starters. If they add a starter, they're going to have to make do with Arcia. If they add 2 bullpen arms, they're going to have to make...
right.
There's going to be some...
It's a budget.
Give and takes.
Yeah.
While the Mets, I don't see a give and take. If the Mets want to push, the Mets will push. But talking about budgets, I think the Phillies have some budget concerns too, with so many superstars, no World Series titles, World Series appearances.
They would love to dump some contracts.
They have a lot of money. They didn't lose that much. They obviously non-tendered Austin Hayes. That was just a trade that really didn't work out for both sides. And they lost what we'll talk about as 3 top 50 free agents, and Spencer Turnbull, Jeff Hoffman, and Carlos Estevez.
Yeah.
Hoffman might be the only one that had Philly deeper roots. Estevez was there for the year. I think Turnbull was too. So I they're not losing too much, and again, on paper, they don't have many holes. They have some rookie pitchers possibly coming up. I think the biggest hole is who's closing.
Don't you think the outfield's pretty weak?
No, I don't think it's pretty weak. I think they've always seemed to have a defensive-minded center fielder, and then offensive corners. Brandon Marsh and Nick Castellanos are okay to good offensive additions. I wouldn't call it weak. If they wanted to shore up anything, it'd be an offensive center fielder. Or, again, an offensive left fielder, move Marsh to center. But I don't think that's necessarily weak when you have... Harper, I think, should eventually return to the outfield. I don't think it'll ever happen. I like him more as a right fielder than a first baseman. If you wanted to make... I don't know. I mean, Castellanos came up as a third baseman, right? And they moved to the outfield. So... I don't know. I just think their outfield could be immediately strengthened if Harper goes back out there. If Castellanos is injured December for some reason, he drops a weight on his shoulder, move Harper back to right and sign Pete Alonso. I don't know, but sign some first baseman, Christian Walker, if they can't afford Pete. And I think that immediately strengthens the outfield. I think their weakness is who is closing. Is it Alvarado? Is it Strahm? Is it Kerkering? Is it somebody else? And in terms of what you said, Dad, bad contracts, is Taijuan Walker's contract is the one that you want to get rid of. This team didn't pitch him in the playoff appearances they've had. He had a horrible year this year. They don't trust him. He seems to be a little discontent with the team. He has no trade value. But if they're able to shed some of that contract, just kind of like I mentioned Christian Vasquez with the Twins, cutting Baez, anything that they can get back, they could therefore put back into the team and another player. I don't like the Alec Baum rumors. I think he's a fine, serviceable third baseman, and also not making a money. He's like Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Wheeler, Nola. Those are the contracts. Alec Baum is kind of making what he should be making at the position. He's not overpaid or underpaid. So I think kind of trading him doesn't necessarily make that team better.
Castellanos is the one they're trying to dump that contract.
I guess.
Didn't have a good year.
No, I think he's still good for the team. Good clubhouse guy. I understand you can only pay your clubhouse guys so much. But again, if Castellanos goes, I have to imagine if everything you said, he's not having a good year, he's making too much money, they're going to have to eat some of that contract.
Correct.
And I don't know if anyone's looking to trade for an average right fielder.
In a package deal, maybe.
Maybe.
But I tell you, the Phillies GM is a
Royals? I don't know.
Phillies GM is a very good GM.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he'll figure out a way to restock that team.
I don't think Nicky makes sense in the Yankees at all. I don't know. Orioles maybe? I don't know. But well, I don't know. I don't know what that trade would look like, so maybe that's why I'm having trouble. But I don't know. A right fielder for like a bad closer? I don't know. But Phillies just don't have as much money to spend. They have less money to spend than the Braves, but luckily I think less holes. So I don't know who wins the East right now. We'll see how well each team adds. The Mets have the best chance to improve, while Phillies and Braves are just kind of hoping to maintain probably their 2024 record. Natstat. Looking at the Nationals, they have, outside of the Nats in that league, in that division, they have the most money they could spend. I think the Nats, if they wanted to, could spend $100 million on free agents this offseason. Doesn't mean they will. It just means Patrick Corbin's contract's finally over. They just cut Kyle Finnegan and Tanner Rainey. They have...
I was surprised with Finnegan.
I was surprised with Finnegan, too. Trevor Williams, Joey Gallo, Jacob Barnes, Carter Kieboom is finally just like... Carter Kieboom...
You went boom.
Carter Kieboom is Bobby Dahlbeck. Like, they're the same kind of player. And Joey Meneses are finally gone as well. I think they can shed some more money, Dad. I think C.J. Abrams is off this team.
Yeah.
I think he's traded.
He made a mistake.
Yeah.
You can't go out and come back, at the clubhouse with an hour's sleep and go, here I am.
I think there's a lot of like teams that might just take a, hey, we'll discipline you better. We got a better coach, or we have better owners, or whatever. I just think he's kind of gone from that team. I don't know where he'll play, but then that could possibly create a hole at short. And I mean, there's no one playing first base. Maybe Brady House makes opening day at third base. There's no one DHing. Their outfield could be the best outfield in baseball next year. Time will tell. Josiah Gray will be out pretty much until playoffs, if they somehow make the playoffs. So they don't have an ace. They don't really even have a number 2. Mackenzie Gore is not a 2. And they are desperate for help in the bullpen. So I'm glad they have $100 million to spend, because I think they will.
I think that's the surprise team in the National League next year.
Tell me more.
Youth. I think they have a strong outfield, like you mentioned before. Some other folks coming up the pike, and I really think they're going to spend money. I think they see an opportunity for next year to get back in the mix. I think, last year they were 71 and 91. I'm thinking a 10-game improvement at least for next year. I think they got a strong team that's going to be fun to watch, and they will spend some money. I mean, they're even in the Sutter race, So who knows what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a much improved team with a lot of youth and energy.
I think it's going to be interesting for Nats fans to possibly have to watch and face Turner, Harper, and Soto all in the same division, but not on the Nats. It's kind of interesting how if Soto ends up in New York, the Mets, not the Yankees, that they'll have to face all 3 of what was their franchise 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
That's a really good statement. Yeah, but I think they're on their way back up. And they made some good trades. You have to admit that they got a heck of a haul when they traded Soto to San Diego 2 years ago, and now that's all coming around. So pretty strong, and I think it's just a fun team that's going to be scoring a lot of runs. We'll see how it ends up, but it's a tough division.
If Cade Cavalli is able to make the opening day roster, again, I think one pitcher will be good enough to kind of get through. That could be Gore, Irvin, Hers, Cavalli, possibly Mitchell Parker. It just lacks when you're facing Kodai Senga, Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler as a number 1 in your other parts of your division.
Yeah.
And honestly, as we'll get to, Sandy Alcantara, they're like the only NL East team that doesn't have a put-away ace. So I think the Nats, they lack proven offense. Wood, Young, Cruz don't even have 162 games combined between them. Brady House would be unproven. Everyone else is really, really young. I think you need a 30-plus-year-old first baseman or DH to count on. That's healthy, and same with the closer.
They might have to overpay, but they'll get the veteran kind of star. I think you're correct, and they may have to overpay, but I think they have the money to do it.
We'll see. Yeah. I think it'd be fun to see Davey Martinez coach a good team again, and not just kick dirt over umpires and the plate and take photos after the game. He's a personality. Dad, I mentioned the Marlins. We won't spend too much time. They don't have any losses really because they traded so many people mid-season. Yeah. I said they have lots of needs, but they won't spend a penny.
They don't have it.
No, not really. Yuri Perez is still in their IL for them. They won't come back. Sandy Alcantara should be coming back from the DL. The IL. Well, I was talking 15 years ago. They have some rookies to watch if that's what you care about. And I know we're Baltimore people, so we might talk Connor Norby or Kyle Stowers. Their first baseman, last name De Los Santos, hit 40 home runs in the minors next year. There's no one operating first base for them, so I think he has the full chance to make something of himself. Berger will be their DH or third baseman, depending where Norby ends up. Edwards, their shortstop, is kind of decent. They got a rookie catcher named Ramirez. They got a closer probably that could be an 8th or 9th inning guy, last name Foucher. I think it's Calvin Foucher. Max Meyer could make a debut. So there's a lot of upside of this team. Maybe, again, we'll talk about sprinkling some Rookie of the Year people on this, but they're going to be dead last in this division for sure for probably many years. But they have committed to rebuilding. They truly are not doing any mid-tier shit.
And they made that decision early last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's a nice stat for you. 3 teams in the MLB lost over 100 games. No team won over 100 games.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
Did we get 99? Did anyone get 99? What was the highest win total?
It was the Dodgers with 98.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But most of the time you always have like 2 or 3 over 100.
for the bettors at home. Usually DraftKings always does, will a team win more than 105 games? And it's always plus money. So it does seem to be that the odds are against a truly dominant team. But not dominant losers.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to close out the East, Dad. Move on to the Central, his favorite division, with a lot of question marks to those teams. But again, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's at @PastimePodcast_ and the Father and Son Pastime Podcast here on YouTube and Facebook. Like, comment, subscribe. Close out thoughts.
Thank you for watching.
Keep watching. Subscribe. Serious.